We are still here at the Valley Forge Beef and Ale in beautiful downtown Valley Forge. George Washington slept here, and we are ready to proceed with our next speaker in the Great Agora Conference. We've already heard from 2 of our 5 speakers, 5 of 75 amazing speakers being heard over this weekend. And as always, I do want to recognize our fine list of sponsors. They begin with freekeen.com, K-E-A-N-E, Foundation for a Free Society, thelibertyboys.com, Freedom Engineering Project, the Global Net of Anarchy and Peace, Fully Informed Jury Association, Center for a Stateless Society, Porkfest, Edgar the Exploiter, Bitcoin, Dotson for Congress, DellValleySilver.com, LarkinRose.com, I'm told the Montgomery County Libertarian Party, and of course the good old Valley Forge Beef and Ale for hosting us today. And you know what the worst part of that is? I'm not drinking yet. Here I am in this fine establishment with fine beers, and I'm going to wait until I introduce the last speaker, and then I'm going to get a beer. Steve, our first speaker, is already drinking. I'm jealous. But our next speaker is none other than Jim Babb, who is the organizer of the Philadelphia event today. Jim's a libertarian activist, obviously. He's a small business owner, musician, and a father of 2 cute as heck daughters. His political focus is on the Fully Informed Jury Association pamphleteering. He works with Julian Heiklin a lot, although Jim has not yet gotten arrested for that. He also works with End the Fed, Drug War Repeal, and Property Rights Protection. He was there for our Abington Township rally when they stole the property of the little old lady. Most notably, recently, Jim is the co-founder of WeWon'tFly.com, and he's a consumer advocate for dignity in air travel. I've personally been standing there when Jim has challenged the TSA in dozens of major media appearances and at airports. Although Jim is nonviolent, WeWon'tFly.com is completely nonviolent, certain critics, including some very popular TV personalities, have suggested that Jim be placed on a terrorist watch list for his peaceful advocacy work.
There you go.
Wait, you know you're really making the big time when you're on the view. I'm telling you. Please join me in welcoming the inimitable, the irreplaceable, the very tall Jim Babb. You're welcome, Jim.
This is a wonderful opportunity. Welcome to the Agora I/O Unconference. I'm thrilled to be joined by so many impressive presenters in this unconference. This is totally groundbreaking, and it's an absolute honor to participate. And thank you for participating, both the people here and the people online. And a special thanks to George Donnelly for having the vision, the talent, and the drive to make something like this happen. This is totally impressive, and I'm very excited to be a part of it. I've had the pleasure of working with George on a number of projects, including FIJA Outreach, and most recently with We Won't Fly. I mean, he's really the brains behind the web phenomenon that has made it a success, so he deserves all the credit there. In fact, when this distributed online conference model catches on, think about how many travelers will be spared the TSA gauntlet. When you can go to a conference on your computer at home, instead of traveling across the country, spending a lot of money, getting groped to do it, this is really going to have a big impact. So, I think that's kind of an unintended consequence, but still deserves notice. What we're doing here is a little bit different than all the other presentations in the conference. We're broadcasting live from the Valley Forge Beef and Ale. This is sort of our unofficial Lovolution headquarters. So welcome to Valley Forge Beef and Ale. The folks here are always gracious. They're totally accommodating. And best of all, they always have high quality beer. So that's really the main reason we come here. The online audience, as you know, you can connect with us here. The chat window is on display for the audience to see. So we encourage questions from the online audience. I was going to talk about free market airline security, but current events made it imperative to me that I bring up another topic. So today I'm going to talk about Lysander Spooner to Bernard von Nothaus. And I want to share some lessons from revolutionary market anarchists. Brad Spangler provided my favorite definition for agorism: revolutionary market anarchism. Brad says, in a market anarchist society, law and security would be provided by market actors instead of political institutions. Agorists recognize that situation cannot develop through political reform. Instead, it will arise as a result of market processes. So when we talk about agorism, essentially we're talking about free trade. But it's free trade that develops to the point of disrupting the control of the ruling class. The revolution culminates when the criminal activities of the state are suppressed by free market institutions. So for this unconference, I wanted to examine two of the most successful agorists. Lysander Spooner and Bernard von Nothaus are entrepreneurs separated in time by a century and a half. But they both developed successful businesses designed to compete directly with state monopolies. Their success was absolutely intolerable to the rulers. They were true revolutionaries and were treated as such by the monopolies that they dared to challenge. Both men endeavored to provide essential products, and they worked to dramatically improve the standard of living of their societies. Spooner provided a low-cost alternative to the government postal monopoly. Von Nothaus provided a currency alternative that retained its value, competing directly with the Federal Reserve and the U.S. Mint. Both of these heroes waged epic battles, but met overwhelming resistance. I'd like to briefly share some of their stories and see if we can draw some lessons and build on their work. I wish I could say, here's where these guys went wrong, this is what we need to do differently, but I can't. I don't have those answers. But I do want to at least point to some of the dangers and ask the audience to suggest alternatives. I'm a huge fan of Lysander Spooner. His life's work is absolutely amazing. His ideas could be the source of dozens of presentations. LysanderSpooner.org is a wonderful resource created by Professor Randy E. Barnett of Georgetown University Law Center. You can find the text of Spooner's writings and detailed biographical information. It's a resource that I refer to regularly, and it was very helpful for me to prepare this presentation. Lysander Spooner was a 19th century entrepreneur, scholar, abolitionist, and a passionate advocate for liberty. He developed constitutional arguments against slavery, currency regulation, and professional licensure, and for the freedom to contract. Then eventually, he actually challenged the legitimacy of the Constitution itself. He was also a champion of jury nullification. He even developed his own free market, land-backed currency model. What I want to examine here is Spooner's American Mail Letter Company. Article 1, Section 8 awards the U.S. Congress the power to establish post offices and post roads. As is too common, the politicians get a power, and then they quickly construe that power as grounds to outlaw any competition. Proponents of the Postal Monopoly Service claim that since Congress was given the power to provide a service, they are actually obligated to provide that service. And that obligation must include the financial capacity to meet the obligation. So creating a monopoly to them is the only way to keep the customers from running off with their financial capacity. Congress did not waste any time securing this monopoly. In 1792, the U.S. Congress passed the Private Express Statutes and the Mailbox Access Rule. The PES refers to the Postal Service's monopoly on the delivery of letters, and the Mailbox Rule refers to the Postal Service's exclusive access to customer mailboxes. So basically, they outlawed private mail carriers and claimed ownership of everyone's mailbox. So this was in 1792. So as you can see, it didn't take them long at all to go down this road. In early America, as the roads, canals, and trains dramatically reduced the cost of transportation, the postal rates remained frozen in time. Creative entrepreneurs did their best to exploit loopholes and just flat out disobey this law. Postal inspectors vigorously hunted the violators. In 1842, they thought they had a big catch. They spent a lot of time and money prosecuting Adams and Company for using commissioned stagecoach passengers to transport letters. God forbid. But this is what they decided was going to be their big catch. They were hoping for a big win to discourage others from doing the same thing. But Adams and Company had the full support of the people of New York City. The jury, therefore, found the company not guilty because, quote, there is not law to convict them. So that was very fortunate. This created opportunities for others to step in and deliver letters at half the price that the post office was charging. In addition, instead of making people pick up their mail at the post office, it was hand-delivered. Overnight, we had dramatically better service and superior quality. Among companies responding to this opportunity was Lysander Spooner's American Letter Mail Company. Before beginning in 1844, he informed the Postmaster General that he was establishing a letter mail service from Boston to Baltimore. He said, quote, I shall remain in this city where I shall be ready at any time to answer any suit. So he's throwing a gauntlet. Accompanying the letter was a copy of Spooner's pamphlet, The Unconstitutionality of the Laws of Congress Prohibiting Private Mails. While he began operations, Spooner advertised in all the big newspapers. The American Mail Letter Company printed its own stamps, hired agents, and was soon quite successful. Within a few months, the private mail companies had taken over the bulk of service between Boston, New York, and Baltimore, and Philadelphia. In his advertisement, Spooner announced his intent to, quote, test the constitutional right of free competition in the business of carrying letters. He argued that people had a natural right to work and to acquire property, which no legislature could abrogate. So how do you think Congress and the Postmaster General felt about this? Well, not surprisingly, they aggressively attacked Spooner. To avoid the constitutional issues, they employed some extra legal measures. They threatened to withhold government contracts from transport companies doing business with the American Letter Mail Company. To me, this sounds sort of like Senator Joe Lieberman calling up Amazon.com and saying, I don't think you want to do business with WikiLeaks anymore. This is the same tactic, and they'll try anything. The government then began arresting agents and basically swamped Spooner with a flood of harassing legal actions that the company just couldn't survive. Nonetheless, the Supreme Court ruled in 1844 that it was an open question, quote, whether the United States had an exclusive right to establish post office and post routes. Spooner was crushed financially, but he succeeded in forcing the Congress to cut the price of government postage in half. Spooner then returned to his family farm and began to work on the slavery issue. Today, the post office is empowered to suspend the private express statutes if it believes that such a private postal service would be in the interest of the general public. So, by the grace of the postmaster, we are permitted the privilege of using Federal Express as long as it is extremely urgent. So, if you want to do a little bit of civil disobedience, the next time you send a FedEx, write in big letters on the envelope, not extremely urgent. The story of American Mail Letter Company demonstrates clearly that any power awarded to politicians can quickly become a coercive monopoly. If they can't drive off the competition economically, they will resort to extreme violence when needed. That brings us to the next hero that I wanted to discuss, which is Bernard von Nothaus. So Bernard von Nothaus, yes. The same article of the Constitution that awarded Congress the power to build postal roads and post offices also handed Congress the power to coin money. Unlike the post office, for 2 centuries, no one claimed that this authorized a monopoly on money. According to Wikipedia, quote, there are over 4,000 privately issued currencies in more than 35 countries. These include private gold and silver exchanges, local paper money, computerized systems of credits and debits, and electronic currencies in circulation such as digital gold currency. But Bernard von Nothaus did something different. As a result of what he did, the government has now assumed a monopoly power over all currency in the United States. Bernard chose to challenge the Federal Reserve. Needless to say, it takes some pretty big cojones to take on the engine of the empire and the most powerful criminal enterprise the world has ever seen. Bernard ingeniously developed a sustainable strategy to replace Federal Reserve notes with real money while simultaneously educating the public about money. In the late 90s, Bernard founded the National Organization for the Repeal of the Federal Reserve Act and the Internal Revenue Code, otherwise known as NORFED. This grassroots organization asserted that the Federal Reserve is unconstitutional and harmful. NORFED produced the Liberty Dollars, and the Liberty Dollars are, if you've probably seen them, it's a wonderful alternative. It's a fully private currency. He exchanged Federal Reserve notes for pure silver tokens and fully backed warehouse receipts for precious metals. He provided a simple means of exchange whose very existence advertised the flaws of the government's paper money. Millions of Federal Reserve notes were voluntarily exchanged for gorgeous silver rounds. While the value of the Federal Reserve notes has plummeted, the value of the Liberty Dollars has remained constant. Early on, Bernard thought that his paper certificates would be the most popular, but he was wrong. The people wanted the hard silver in their hand. For some inexplicable reason, they feared that the government would raid the warehouse. So NORFED produced thousands of pounds of real money in response to customer demand. Thousands of happy customers and hundreds of merchants gladly exchanged goods and services for Liberty Dollars. In fact, while attending Larkin Rose's trial in Philadelphia, my friend used Liberty Dollars to purchase food in the courthouse cafeteria. So these are widely accepted. I usually don't spend Liberty Dollars because I'd rather save them. But I gladly accepted them in exchange for goods and services. I use them as gifts for nieces and nephews, much the way others might give a savings bond. I want to give something that not only has value now, but sort of sneaks in a lesson about fiat currency. Bernard's success had not gone unnoticed. In 1999, approximately, Claudia Dickens, spokeswoman for the U.S. Treasury Department's Bureau of Engraving and Printing, said, "American Liberty currency is legitimate." Dickens was quoted as having said, "There's nothing illegal about this." After the Treasury Department's legal team reviewed the currency, as long as it does not say legal tender, there's nothing wrong with it. So that's 1999. Of course, Liberty Dollars have never said legal tender. In fact, NORFED was careful to never even use the word coin, which in legalese means a token issued by the government. Evidently, Dickens' opinion was not shared by those pulling the strings. In 2004, the FBI began an undercover operation to see what seedy behavior they could uncover. For several years, they sent in various undercover agents to pose as customers and distributors. In 2006, the U.S. Mint posted a warning about the Liberty Dollar, claiming, quote, "Prosecutors with the Department of Justice have determined that the use of these gold and silver NORFED Liberty Dollars, Liberty Dollar medallions, as circulating money is a federal crime." So according to the Department of Justice, I've committed a federal crime every Christmas. So shh, don't tell anybody. And then they go on to claim, under the Constitution, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 5, Congress has the exclusive power to coin money of the United States and to regulate its value. Oh, really? there's no hint of exclusive power in the Constitution, only to coin money, regulate the value thereof in a foreign coin, and fix the standard of weights and measures. The Mint's warning also tries to sound legitimate by referencing the United States statute that tells the Mint what coins to make. Quote, Congress specifies the coins that the Secretary of the Treasury is authorized to mint and issue and requires the Secretary to carry out these duties at the United States Mint. But then further adds, this is their own words, accordingly, the United States Mint is the only entity in the United States with the lawful authority to mint and issue legal tender United States coins. Well, it makes no sense at all because, again, Liberty Dollar has never claimed to be legal tender or United States coins. So now they get to the heart of the matter. Just as the government assumed the postal monopoly in 1794 with the Private Express statute, the currency monopoly was supposedly awarded by U.S. Code Title 18, Section 486. Quote, it is a federal crime to utter or pass or attempt to utter or pass any coins of gold or silver intended for use as current money except as authorized by law. So we know Norfed Materials carefully avoided the word coin. All distributors were trained to use alternative terms like medallion, round, numismatic piece, token, etc. Never coin. Just to be clear, after this announcement of assumed power by the Mint, the Liberty Dollar design was changed. They added several things like manufacturer suggested retail price, private voluntary barter currency, and not intended as legal tender, current money, or coin. Evidently, this wasn't enough to stop the government from persecuting Bernard. In the Soviet Union, if the communist officials don't like a private business, they would swoop in, grab everything, arrest anybody they want. In the United States, there is a legal process instead. If the government wishes to have a business shut down, the law provides a remedy called an injunction, which is a formal order issued by a judge that requires a person or business to cease and desist. In order to secure a federal injunction, the petitioner files an application for the injunction with a federal district judge. The judge has a hearing where both sides can present their side, present evidence, bring witnesses, file briefs, cross-examine, make motions. At the end of the hearing, the judge will either grant or deny the request for an injunction. In 2007, the FBI decided to just skip the legal process and performed a Soviet-style raid. With nothing but a search warrant in hand, they swooped in and completely shut down the Norfed operation by stealing all the assets of the company, including tons of precious metals, computers, records, and equipment. Not only did they grab the property of Norfed, but they lifted the property of thousands of customers, like me and like many of you, when they took the silver and gold that backed the paper certificates. Anyone holding one of these paper certificates is a victim of theft. In 2009, a federal grand jury brought an indictment against Bernard von Nothaus and 3 others. Bernard was charged with 4 counts. 1, conspiracy to possess and sell coins in the resemblance and similitude of coins of a denomination higher than 5 cents, and silver coins in resemblance of genuine coins of the United States in denominations of $5 or greater. So some kind of similitude. Now, I'm not sure, but can anybody tell me what U.S. coin this resembles? Which U.S. coin is a 1-ounce solid lump of precious silver? Is there anything vaguely close to this? Has there ever been in modern times? So to understand what they're accusing him of, it's absolutely perplexing. Count 2 was mail fraud. Evidently, he was doing mail in conjunction with his business, surprisingly enough. Too bad he didn't have the American Mail Letter Company instead. Count 3, similar to the first, this is not conspiracy to, but the actual selling and possessing with intent to defraud coins of resemblance and similitude of United States coins in denomination of 5 cents or higher. So again, resemblance or similitude, I mean, I just don't get it. And the fourth count, uttering, passing, and attempting to utter and pass silver coins in resemblance. So 3 similar counts and 1 mail fraud thrown in there just to give them a little extra. Last Friday, Bernard was found guilty on all 4 of these counts. He faces up to 25 years in prison and $500,000 in fines. In addition, the 4 tons of precious metals stolen may never be recovered. So he is appealing, but this is a dark day for him and for anybody that values liberty and free currency. The the Department of Justice press release came out, and it indicated made some interesting claims, and it made the true political motives of Bernard's persecution clear. They quickly took the opportunity of Bernard's conviction to further expand their claim of monopoly power. Apparently channeling the arguments that justified the postal monopoly, the Department of Justice offered their own twisted logic to justify their power grab. Quote, Congress has the concurrent power to restrain the circulation of money which is not issued under its own authority in order to protect and preserve the constitutional currency for the benefit of all citizens of the nation. Let me repeat that. To preserve the constitutional currency? That's why they're going to send Bernard von Nahthaus to jail? I can't even believe they use those words. Evidently, because Congress has the power to coin money, they also have a duty to suppress the alternatives, just as they have a duty to force us to use their post offices. The press release continues, quote, it is a violation of federal law for individuals such as von Nahthaus or organizations such as Norfed to create private coin or currency systems to compete with the official coinage and currency of the United States. So now we've gone from sort of beyond those legal terms into just flat out saying, you're not going to do it. They've made it clear, if you create a private system that competes with the phony money of the United States, you will be prosecuted. This was never about similitude of U.S. coins. It was about competing with the Federal Reserve. The press release concludes, attempts to undermine the legitimate currency of this country are simply a unique form of domestic terrorism. While these forms of anti-government activities do not involve violence, they are every bit as insidious and represent a clear and present danger to the economic stability of this country. We are determined to meet these threats through infiltration, disruption, and dismantling of organizations which seek to challenge the legitimacy of our democratic form of government. God bless America. Thank God that dangerous people like Bernard von Nahthaus are going to get what's coming to them. How dare they try to offer these wonderful silver coins that might be interpreted as a silver dollar. They're actually worth like $36.
The terrorist tokens.
So, I mean, the goal of this statement is beyond words. I mean, first of all, I think we know who is undermining the currency of the United States. Yeah, it's not the people that are providing gold and silver, I'll tell you that. Bernard is the, quote, clear and present danger to the economic stability of the country. I mean, they actually wrote that. I mean, do they really believe that? They claim that if you use a private currency, you are a terrorist. Clearly, this is an attempt to chill the emerging private currency movement. They may be able to cage a man, but the movement he has spawned cannot be recalled. The ideas are out there now. There is no going back. So this movement is being carried forward by entrepreneurs like the Emorys, Del Valley Silver, Rob Gray's American Open Currency Standard, Shire Silver, wallet voting. Even the states are getting into the business with solid silver commemorative medallions. Like many revolutionaries, the ones out in front are the first ones to be shot. And our job is to pick up their banner, learn from their lessons, and continue their effort. I'd like to sort of examine what lessons we might be able to learn from Spooner and Von House. The battles that they fought can definitely teach us something about state power. If you award politicians a power, they will transmute that authority into a mandate to oppose a monopoly. No matter what the intentions, any government power will become a means to initiate violence against peaceful people. First they say, due to a market failure, the government will reluctantly provide an essential service. This eventually becomes, compete with our racket and we'll crush you. We see this phenomenon quite often, especially when the non-government alternative is a threat to the establishment. Bernard's case is an extreme, but we see similar persecution of parents who choose to home educate. See what happens if you try to compete with my township's trash removal service. Try to issue your own lottery tickets in Pennsylvania, and you'll find out what I'm talking about. Most agorists will not face the threats that Bernard and Lysander experienced, but we will need to be aware of the dangers that will come with success. Agorists are counting on free market institutions to protect them from the criminality of the state. Bernard and Lysander became too successful and arrived before the emergence of the institutions that could protect them. When it comes to barter currencies, I'm sure the new providers are paying careful attention to recent events. There are certainly technical details that can be changed, like leaving off words like dollar and adding explicit disclaimers like not current money, not U.S. coins, do not circulate, for entertainment purposes only. These are details that might slow up the Department of Justice, make their prosecutions a little harder. But that's not really what fuels them. I mean, their motivation is the fact that people are willing to compete. So whatever disclaimers you use, by the time you become successful, you're going to be in danger when you actually challenge the status quo, as both Spooner and Von House have discovered. They just really don't like being exposed as a bunch of lying thugs. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. If you expose their lying, they will come after you, as I'm sure Larkin could testify to. So what about the solutions? Again, I'm not coming from this as somebody that says, I've got the solutions. I'm just trying to sort of raise some of the questions and hope that we can together maybe uncover some ideas. The postal monopoly has already basically been nullified by the free market. We've got emails, PDFs, PayPal, online bill paying, unlimited long-distance phone plans. The reasons for mailing a letter become fewer and fewer every day. So, I'm pretty much considering the postal monopoly squashed at this point due to emerging technologies. Other monopolies, I'm hoping, will be defeated the same way. Maybe decentralization is something we need to keep, to stay focused on. Bernard was too easy of a target. Not only did he publicly embarrass the Federal Reserve, but he had millions of dollars in precious metals sitting there like a prize. It's just too easy. It's too easy for them. They're like, oh my God, look at all that. We can get that. That'll pay for everything. So is there a place that could be more secure, for somebody? Would there be a way to audit the metal reserves, but not lead a trail of breadcrumbs for these thieves to find it? This is something for the next generation of monetary entrepreneurs to figure out. What we really need are hundreds of competing barter currency providers: junk silver merchants, electronic alternatives, distributed models, international sources. So that's why I commend the Emery's and Del Valle Silver. I'm really glad to have our own local business that's doing this, and it's exciting to see all the new businesses that are emerging in response to this movement. The opponents of freedom are monolithic. They're slow and they're brutish. Our strength includes creativity, flexibility, and access to new technologies and distributed communication networks. They are stuck in top-down hierarchies. We have flexible, bottom-up innovation. They bring violence and hate. We counter that with voluntary cooperation and love. I'd like to use the remainder of my time to hear some of your ideas for revolutionary market anarchism without suffering the same fate as Bernard and Lysander. So,
From the internet, John D. Liberto, he says, patriots have always been the ultimate target of the anti-terror apparatus. What's your view on that comment?
Repeat the question, please.
So, as I understand it, patriots have always been the target of the anti-terrorist apparatus. Well, of course, freedom's always illegal. You know, I heard that from somebody in this room, and I think that's important to remember. As we challenge the status quo is not going to sit there and say, "Oh, gee, that huge criminal operation we have, turns out they don't like it." They will take action, and the champions. And in this term, patriot, I would say, you know, in sort of the Thomas Paine definition of a patriot is somebody that protects the country from the government. Yes, that patriot will always be the target. Are there any other questions or ideas? I mean, what could we do to help the next generation of monetary entrepreneurs?
Can you speak more to the unpredictability of what will replace the government monopolies, such as email replacing the postal service, PayPal, and other things like that?
In terms of currency?
Yeah. Repeat the question.
Okay, what will replace government currency as analogous to how email has replaced the postal monopoly? And you know, I think we're already seeing emerging technologies, things like Bitcoin and Shire Silver, and you know, I think first it's going to be it's local communities trading amongst themselves, using silver shells, whatever you want to trade with, finding a way to work around the Federal Reserve note, bypassing the corrupt system and developing alternatives. And if we have millions of communities doing that, all kinds of smart people working on it, I think we're going to discover what new opportunities are there, and the ones that are the best will rise to the top. Any other questions?
Online, Timo Flatley asks, was the case against Liberty Dollar claiming that they were competing with the U.S. Mint's gold and silver coins or with the Federal Reserve notes?
Well, they say they're competing with Congress's ability to coin money. Now, but then they also say it's illegal to have a currency system. So that's going to compete against the Federal Reserve. So I consider these all sort of multiple heads of the same hydra. But the legal specifics, you know, I'm not a lawyer or a legal expert.
For me, what would possess the U.S. Mint to say Congress has the exclusive power of anything?
If they don't say that, they have no case. I mean, they have to claim that. Just the same way they said Congress has the duty to suppress private post offices. It's just a self-awarded power that they stand up and say, you know what? If you compete with me, we'll squash you. Any other questions? Well, I'd like to thank you all for participating in this conference. This has been a wonderful opportunity. We've got several excellent speakers coming up. I'm definitely looking forward to, when this is over, being able to watch all the archives of these speakers. It's going to take me weeks and weeks to catch up. So thank you all, and again, thank you to George Connolly and all the organizers.
Drone.
Thank you.
I was trying. Here, thank you, Matt. Excellent. I love hearing stories about how things work, about how we can replace what we got coming. Well, we have a little bit of time before we go to our next speaker, Mike Salvi, in another 15 minutes. We have a little short vignette from one of our local libertarians, Darren Wolf. Darren is the former Eastern Vice Chair of the Libertarian Party of Pennsylvania. He does articles. He's a very prolific blogger as the International Libertarian, and his articles have appeared in American Juror, opednews.com, and the state party newsletter, the Libertarian Pen. He's also been on nollanchart.com, in addition to his International Libertarian blog. A lot of the news services have picked up links to his articles, including the New York Post and the Rational Review. He's here today to talk to us about his latest project, Focus on Peace, which is a politically neutral peace movement. Please join me in welcoming the Valley Forge Brew and Ale, Darren Wolf.
Thank you, Ken. So, my liberty-loving friends here at the Valley Forge Beef and Ale, and of course all of you out in the cyber world, let's start with a little full disclosure. This may come as a surprise to some of you, but I'm a staunch libertarian. Like most libertarians, I advocate peace. I've tried working with the left's peace movement, and I've been frustrated by the fact that they insist on tacking onto their agenda the social and economic ideas that the liberty-minded just can't endorse. This is why I founded Focus on Peace, to be a peace movement that everybody can comfortably join. Well, I'll put it down about here. How's that? Let's back up a little bit and talk about how this all got started. Libertarians are reaching out to the left to stand together for peace. Myself, I approached the organizers. Thank you, Steve. I approached the organizers of the October 16th peace rally in Philadelphia at their planning meeting they had a few days before the event. The meeting started out with them wanting to find out who I was, so they said, everybody around the table, go ahead and introduce yourself and say a few words about your affiliation. The introductions went something like this. Hi, I'm so-and-so with the Communist Party. I'm so-and-so with Progressive Democrats of America. I'm so-and-so with the Socialist Party. I could go on, but I'm sure you get the idea. I was very politely but very firmly told at that meeting that they were completely unwilling to change their agenda at all to accommodate people of other points of views. This would be for future rallies, of course, not for the one coming up that Saturday. When the left tacks on to their anti-war coalitions a social and economic agenda that the liberty-minded, the conservatives, also cannot endorse, what they're telling us is, you're not welcome. We're not saying that they need to change their advocacy in any way. The individuals and the organizations that are part of these anti-war coalitions, their speakers can say all the same things they've been saying. They can hold up all the same signs they've been holding up. We're just saying that the coalition itself needs to be politically neutral. That way everybody can join in good conscience. On other sides of the political spectrum, you have libertarians and you have conservative groups that are anti-war. With few exceptions, they're not explicitly peace groups. Also, and again with few exceptions, they don't do peace rallies and they don't engage in explicitly peace activism. Of course, the people on the left will have nothing to do with that. This creates a big chasm between the two sides. My recent experience with the Chester County Peace Movement, that's Chester County, Pennsylvania, I should be clear for people watching online. My recent experience with the Chester County Peace Movement, also attaching a political and social agenda to their activism, was the last straw. Their call for people to make and hold up signs supporting the government unions in Wisconsin. This was at their weekly peace vigil, which they hold in Westchester, Pennsylvania. That was when I ended my association with them. All of this led me to the conclusion that maybe it's not the smartest thing to try to change the left's anti-war movement. The thing to do is broaden the anti-war movement, to add to it an organization that everybody can comfortably join. And this is why I created Focus on Peace, a peace activism group with no political agenda attached. We advocate only for peace and nothing else. Why should you join us, you may ask? Well, if you're a libertarian or an anti-war conservative, I think the answer becomes obvious. Now, you can engage in peace activism without feeling like you're endorsing the left's entire agenda. Now, if you're on the left, I'm sure there are many of you out here. Now, I know that none of you here are, but it's perhaps online, some would like to join us on that. If you're on the left, join us too. I have talked to a number of people who are on the left who said they like the idea of working with people of other ideologies. Now, don't leave the peace groups that you're working with now. I'm not saying that. Matter of fact, we need them strong. Even if you're perfectly happy with the peace movement the way it is, join us. We need your support. Surely, peace lovers of all political persuasions can see the value of broadening the peace movement. Focus on Peace held its first action on Saturday, March 19th in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. This was to coincide with the World Can't Wait call for rallies on the anniversary of the invasion of Iraq. It was a success. We had 5 peace lovers attend, including the last speaker, James Babb. Thank you very much for that. We stood at a very busy corner by the King of Prussia Mall. Now, our message seemed very well received there compared to other places I've done this kind of activism at. There were many honks for peace, beep beep, and only a few insults. We all had a great time, and everybody said they were ready to do it again. Now, some of the signs that we held up included the Focus on Peace one. You guys have to tell me if I'm getting it on the screen.
It's too high.
Bring it down a little bit.
Down?
Just read it for us.
Okay, it says Focus on Peace, a politically neutral peace movement. And just put this aside over here. We also had some of the required, I guess, honk for peace signs. Are they showing?
On the table. Yes, just like that.
Okay.
Not next to the table.
Honk for peace. And of course, we had the peace messages on the back. Now, what I know will be the favorite of the people in this room, we had quotes from the founders, warning of the dangers of war. Actually, perhaps I should say, this one would be the favorite of the people in this room, right? End the Fed, end the wars. Okay. Our next action is actually coming up soon. It's going to be April 9th in New York City. We're going to join with our friends on the left, the United National Anti-War Committee, who are going to be doing a very big rally at Union Square. This is at noon, Saturday, April 9th in New York. Focus on Peace is going there. We're calling the event Flyer the Rally. We're going to be handing these out. I want to reach out to the serious activists who are there. I would encourage those of you who can attend to be there. It should be a lot of fun. Now, excuse me, the wars abroad are less popular now than they have ever been. Now is the time to give people who are not on the left in their thinking a place to go to advocate for peace. Hopefully, Focus on Peace will fill this role. I also hope that all of you in this room would join us. Okay. I do know there is a lot of room for people to join the peace movement, even those who traditionally are not a part of it. I'd like to go back to what I mentioned before about Chester County Peace Movement and the peace rallies in Westchester. That they have an interesting scene there. Chester County Peace Movement occupies one corner, and the Chester County Victory Movement occupies another. And it's all nice and organized. Every week they switch sides and going, standing across from each other. The other side sometimes calls themselves the American sheepdogs. One day, I was standing there with my signs advocating peace. I was also standing there with my Gadsden flag, the "Don't Tread on Me" flag, for those who don't know about the Gadsden idea. Anyway, one of the people walked across the street, and he said, "There are Democrats here." And I looked at him, "What?" He says, "There are Democrats here. Why are you standing on this side of the street holding up your Gadsden flag and the sign says, 'End the Fed'? You should be across the street with us." I said, "Well, actually, I'm standing over here because I advocate peace. I mean, I know these people next to me are on the left, but they advocate peace too." And this guy said, "No, I'm for peace." He said, "I'm a libertarian. I support Ron Paul."
Okay.
Keep talking.
Okay. He says, "I support Ron Paul." He says, "But I would never stand over here with these people on the left. They hate America. They disrespect the troops." And I said, "Well, I can't really speak for anybody else here, but I stand here representing my libertarian ideas and advocating peace. And I won't go across the street to stand with you guys because when you say you support the troops, to me that says you support their mission, you support the war." He says, "I'm not disrespecting anybody. That's not my intention. My intention is strictly to stand for what I believe in." I said, "Matter of fact, I think we should turn this around. You should come over here and stand with me." He said, "No, I don't think so." But it's people like that who can be brought into the peace movement, I think, if we can give them a peace movement that they see as worthy of joining. And that's what it all comes down to, I think, is we need to take the idea of advocating peace away from being a left-wing idea and bring it into being more of a mainstream idea. So, does anybody have any questions, comments? No tomatoes, though, please. Yes.
I was just wondering with the idea of having a politically neutral peace movement, if some of the left might take "End the Feds" as being a politically charged statement.
Absolutely. Yes. Now, I think this is an area where it gets a little bit complicated because I, of course, have my point of view. Everybody has their point of view. And as an individual, I see that I can go to a Focus on Peace event and hold up a sign that advocates my view of how we should have peace or how we can bring about peace. Focus on Peace as an organization does not have a point of view as such. So you'll never see on the Focus on Peace website "End the Fed" or spend money on government health care or anything like that. So that's basically it. It's inevitable at any peace rally, people are going to hold up signs advocating their point of view. Okay? Well, thank you, and I hope to see you at the next rally.
Thank you, Darren. It's always good to see somebody get up and take matters into their own hands, where they see a problem, they see a solution, most importantly, follow through on it. Darren, I applaud you for your efforts. We are at 55 minutes into the hour, so what we're going to do is we're going to take a short break, and then we will reconvene at the top of the hour, and we'll hear from Mike Salvi talking about how not to get overwhelmed as an activist if you do follow in the footsteps of someone like Darren or Jim. Thank you all. We'll see you in a couple minutes.